Chapter Xuanhuan Lin. The 10 Directions Celestial Realm is divided into 10 heavens, each a vast and boundless world. The 10 Directions Celestial Realm reveres martial cultivation. From the first heaven to the 10th heaven, each realm is connected by a temporal gate. Only those with sufficient strength can pass through the temporal gate and enter the next heaven, reaching even greater heights. Legend has it that the 10th heaven of the 10 Directions Celestial Realm contains a shocking secret. Only those who can enter the 10th heaven can achieve eternal immortality, becoming the undying, transcendent 10 Directions God King, Bai Yam. Fengjian City. The sky was somewhat dim, the night fast approaching. Lin Tian carried a pitch-black iron sword. His soaked clothes were tattered and stained with a mixture of blood and mud. His somewhat delicate face was marred with cuts. Yet he couldn't help but laugh. Ha 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 ha! I'm alive, damn heavens! You still have a shred of conscience! Several pedestrians were still on the street. Hearing his laughter, they all looked over with disgusted expressions. His parents disappeared. His family ruined. Has he gone insane? Stay away from that jinx, don't get caught up in his bad luck. Pedestrians pointed and whispered, their murmurs a low hum of gossip. Lin Tian ignored them, walking purposefully in a chosen direction. Lin Tian had transmigrated, originally from Earth. A mishap had sent him to this strange world just over 10 days ago, possessing the body of a young master. This young master, his namesake, wasn't from a renowned martial arts family, but his father was the wealthiest merchant in Fengjian City, possessing astonishing wealth. Lin Tian was speechless. After absorbing the memories of the original owner of this body, he discovered the young master had been rather foolish. 2 years prior, his parents disappeared. Ignoring the old steward's warnings, he insisted on letting Xuanhuan's family, the Xiaos, manage his business. As a result, the family fortune was devoured within 2 years, and he himself was murdered by the Xiaos. That's when Lin Tian transmigrated, possessing the young master's body. Even more frustrating, after 10 days of adjusting to this strange world and finally leaving the Lin family mansion, he ran into Xuanhuan and Mo Sen canoodling in the streets. After a brief moment of surprise, Mo Sen attacked him. As an ordinary person in 2 lifetimes, how could he be a match for Mo Sen from a martial arts family? In an instant, Mo Sen subdued him, dragged him out of the city, beat him merciless. Luckily, there was a pool of water at the bottom, saving his life. After a long trek, he had returned. Those 2 dogs, I'll definitely kill them! Lin Tian cursed viciously. By now, darkness had completely fallen, and the air was growing cold. Lin Tian's clothes were soaked, and he sneezed in the cold wind. With the shudder of his shoulders, the purple bell at the end of his iron sword jingled. He had found this iron sword in a cave at the bottom of the cliff. The wind in the cave had rung the bell, guiding him back. I wonder how Lim Shai is doing, Lin Tian murmured to himself. In this strange new world, he had a younger sister, a little girl named Lin Shi, who was very well behaved and sensible. For more than 10 days since their arrival in this unfamiliar world, he had been despondent, and it was Lin Shi who had carefully looked after him. Thinking of Lin Tian couldn't help but smile gently, ignoring the icy chill and pain in his body. Lin Tian soon arrived at a desolate house, the old Lin family mansion. Finally home. Lin Shi must be worried after I've been gone so long. Lin Tian chuckled. He reached out his hands to push open the gate. At that moment, a terrified female voice came from inside the house, mixed with 2 lecherous laughs, instantly causing Lin Tian's expression to change. Chapters 1002 Yi. Unbearable. Lin Tian kicked open the door and charged into the back house. Following the sound, he saw 2 of Mo Sen's servants, Maza and Luer, tearing at a little girl's clothes. Tears streamed down the girl's face, most of her clothes ripped to shred, leaving her half naked, much of her skin exposed. A look of terror was etched on her face. I'll fuck your ancestors! Lin Tian felt a surge of rage. Forgetting his own pain, he swung his iron sword, striking at the closer Lu ear. The 2 men were startled by Lin Tian's sudden appearance. You little bastard, you're not dead! You've scraped by with your life, and you dare return! Excellent! Let old Lu send you on your way again! Luer sneered and punched forward as Mo Sen's servant. Luer hadn't undergone martial arts training, but his skill wasn't weak. He didn't take Lin Tian seriously. Their fist and sword met, but a powerful force surged back up the sword, sending him flying. I didn't expect you, little bastard, to have some skill. Maza sneered, his eyes fixed on Lin Tian. But that's all you've got. Let you see Maza's methods before you die. Maza shifted his right leg back slightly, assuming a punching stance. In an instant, his demeanor changed drastically, transforming into something like a ferocious tiger. This pipsqueak is nothing to me. I'm practically at the peak of martial arts. 1 punch is all it takes, sneered Luer. Little bastard, enjoy your last moments. Mazia was pleased with Luer's flattery. He nodded, smoted coldly, unleashing a palm strike that sent a gust of wind towards Lin Tian. Killing you's a great feat, day dog slave! Lin Tian was furious, seeing Lin Shi's disheveled state, and remembering her tender care these past days. He felt a raging fire in his chest. He gripped his sword, eyes wild, and charged at Mazia. The iron sword swung, the purple bell on its pommel swaying, yet strangely, no sound emerged. Lin Tian couldn't think straight. All he saw was Mazia approaching. All he wanted was to cleave him in 2. Lin Tian's eyes were bloodshot. He brought his sword down in a sweeping arc. Puff! A sound echoed, then Mazia's face froze, his fist still raised in attack. But 1 arm flew off in a spray of blood. His body split open at the shoulder, blood spurting as he collapsed. With 1 strike, Mazia was cleaved in 2. Ah! Liu's agonizing scream echoed the fact that Maz, a man on the verge of mastering martial arts, had been killed by Lin Tian with a single sword. This bizarre and terrifying sight left Liu pale with fright. He didn't dare linger. Scrambling away in a desperate retreat, Liu's scream jolted Lin Tian, bringing him back to his senses. Brother, brother. Just then, a sobbing voice pierced the air. Lin Shi, her clothes disabled, looked terrified. Lin Tian's heart leaped. Forgetting about the fleeing Liu, he quickly rushed to Lin Shi's side, hastily draping a cloth over her. His movements were clumsy and frantic. Seeing the little girl trembling with fear, his heart ached. I'm sorry, Shi, I failed you. I couldn't protect you. Over the past 10 days since his arrival in this world, Lin Shi had been the one caring for him, washing his clothes and preparing his meals. He had long since come to consider the little girl his own younger sister. Seeing her suffer such trauma, he couldn't bear it. Lin Shi was only 8 years old. What those two dogs had done today, what kind of psychological scars would it leave on her? Lin Tian felt his chest constrict as if about to explode. Even after killing Maz, his eyes were still filled with murderous intent. Lin Shi trembled, finally recovering from her terror after a long moment. Clutching Lin Tian's clothes, she sobbed. They said brother was dead. Little Xi didn't believe it. Brother wouldn't leave little Xi alone. Lin Tian felt a pang of heartache. He comforted her relentlessly until Lin Qi calmed down. Then he spoke again. Come, let us leave here, brother. Why? Lin Qi sniffed, tears welling in her eyes. Lin Tian managed a weak smile. It's nothing, he said. Brother will take you out to see the stars. He wasn't actually planning on taking Lin Shi to see the stars. Mazi was dead, killed by his own hand, but Liu had escaped. He was sure Liu would tell Mo Sen and Xiao Yun that he was still alive, and he needed to get Lin Shi out of there, to hide. Oh, okay. Lin Shi was remarkably compliant. Lin Tian quickly gathered some clothes and rations, then scooped up Lin Shi, ignoring the pain in his body. He hurried out the back door. He hadn't run far when he heard someone break into the house, ransacking the place. A chill ran down his spine, and he quickened his pace. After running a little further, a flicker of firelight appeared in the darkness. Brother, fire the house on fire! Lin Shi cried out. Lin Tian looked back. His house was engulfed in flames, a terrifyingly bright spectacle in the night. He could faintly hear a voice, laced with rage. Can't find them. Burn it down. The Xiao family has already swallowed up most of the Lin family's assets anyway. We don't need this useless house. Burn it. And let those two little brats rot on the streets. Lin Tian trembled, gritting his teeth, holding Lin Shi close and fleeing without looking back. In the darkness, the fire raged even more fiercely, with hissing sounds emanating from it. Lin Shi cried desperately, struggling in Lin Tian's arms, her small hands grasping at the air, her cries heartbreaking. This house was the only thing left to them from their parents. Lin Tian held Lin Shi tightly against his chest, enduring the pain in his body, and ran at full speed towards the distance. Outside Fengjian City lay a green mountain. Lin Tian didn't stop until he reached the mountain's interior. Lin Shi lay on his chest, having fainted from the shock and overwhelming sadness. Even in her unconsciousness, her small body continued to tremble, as if experiencing a terrifying nightmare. Lin Tian's heart ached at the sight. He looked up at the raging inferno in the darkness, his hands clenched tight. This is too much! Chapter 1003, The Mysterious Iron Sword and the Four-Pole Scripture. The mountain air was damp. Lin Tian dared not light a fire, fearing that the Xiao and Mo families would detect him. He leaned against the trunk of a large tree, holding Ling, his gaze fixed on the raging fire in the distance, his eyes terrifying. Pain racked his body and sleep claimed him soon after. Lin Tian drifted into a deep slumber, leaning against the thick trunk of a tree. Lin Tian dreamed. He stood upon a boundless expanse of sky. Far ahead, 9 hazy figures stood, a shining longsword hovering in their midst. Suddenly, the 9 figures moved, reaching for the central sword in unison. Lin Tian's eyes widened in that instant, and he saw the sky collapsing, the earth sinking, thunderbolts crashed down, divine light shot upwards, a scene of utter annihilation. Then, the scene shifted. He saw a longsword plummeting from the heavens, piercing through layers of hazy barriers, hurtling directly towards him. Oh my God! Lin Tian cried out, his eyes snapping open. Cold sweat beaded on his forehead. Night remained black as ink. He still leaned against the thick tree trunk. Lin Shi nestled in his arms, perhaps overcome with grief. She hadn't been awakened by his shout. Lin Tian wiped the sweat from his brow. The dream had been terrifying, that sword flying towards him at the end. It had felt so real. He exhaled sharply, then started. Sword. Where was his sword? He remembered holding Lin Shi, the iron sword gripped in his right hand. But now it was gone. Remembering the dream, Lin Tian broke out in a cold sweat. He scanned his surroundings, then noticed a faint, ethereal glow emanating from his palm. He brought his right hand before his eyes, his pupils widening in shock. A sword-shaped mark was now imprinted on his palm, identical to the iron sword he'd found at the foot of the cliff. This. Lin Tian's pupils constricted. At that moment, a searing pain pierced his mind. It felt as if a heavy hammer had struck his skull, a stabbing agony that nearly forced a scream from his lips. However, the pain didn't last long, quickly fading away. Then he was startled again. Suddenly, his mind was flooded with a plethora of mysterious and complex things: talismans, divine markings, Taoist seals, various strange lights flashing, dazzling and brilliant. Finally, a cryptic ancient scripture surged into his mind, resonating with a clear, ringing sound. Lin Tian's heart pounded. What was this? A cultivation technique? This thought sent a jolt through Lin Tian. He absorbed all the memories of this body, learning that the world he now inhabited was a land that revered martial arts. Martial arts were cultivation, the dream of every young heart, with countless individuals striving to embark on this path each year. However, cultivation required cultivation methods, which were exceedingly difficult to obtain. Ordinary minor clans couldn't possess them. Within the North Yan Kingdom, the most powerful cultivation methods were largely controlled by the empire. Take Fengjian City, for example. In this enormous city and its surrounding areas, only the Zhong Martial Academy established by the North Yan Kingdom and a few martial arts families possessed cultivation methods. However, the cultivation methods possessed by ordinary martial arts families were mediocre, far inferior to those of the Zhuang Martial Academy. Furthermore, martial arts families would not pass down their cultivation methods to outsiders. Therefore, every year countless young people with aspirations for martial arts would vie for a place at the Zhuang Martial Academy, hoping to become academy disciples and learn powerful cultivation methods. Truly setting foot on the path of cultivation, Lin Tian wasn't from a martial arts family, nor had he joined the Zhuang Martial Academy. Yet, he now possibly possessed a cultivation method. How could this not be shocking? Taking a deep breath, Lin Tian quickly sorted through the information flooding his mind. After an hour his eyes lit up. He had indeed sorted out a complete cultivation method, the body tempering divine art, the four-pole scripture. Chapter 4, Triple Body Temp. The body tempering realm is the introductory stage. This stage primarily focuses on refining flesh and blood and forging bones. Even without cultivation methods, ordinary people could cultivate on their own. However, without cultivation methods, ordinary people could only reach the 5th level of body tempering, after which further progress becomes nearly impossible. This is precisely why cultivation methods are so incredibly precious. Lin Tian calmed his mind and contemplated the four-pole scripture. The more he read, the more astonished he became. Generally, ordinary body tempering cultivation methods could only be practiced up to the 9th level of body tempering, but the four-pole scripture could be cultivated indefinitely, constantly strengthening the body without end. It was a top-tier body tempering divine art indeed. Lin Tian believed that the entire North Yan Kingdom could not produce a body tempering method comparable to the four-pole scripture. Lin Tian's eyes were resolute, his fists clenching involuntarily. With the four-pole scripture, he could finally embark on the path of cultivation. Martial arts cultivation. This world was truly fascinating. Lin Tian murmured to himself. This was his first contact with cultivation, and to be honest, Lin Tian felt a surge of excitement and disbelief. However, having lived 2 lives, his temperament was far more composed than that of an ordinary person, and he quickly calmed down. He looked down at the little girl sleeping peacefully in his arms, then glanced towards the fading embers in the darkness, an unusual gleam flickering in his eyes. Mosen, just you wait! He clenched his fists. The moonlight was like water, its soft silver light bathing the earth. Lin Tian leaned against the thick trunk of a tree, glanced at the sleeping Lin, closed his eyes, and began to breathe at a special frequency. From afar, starlight converged into threads, strands of light weaving into his body, a mystical sight. He was cultivating the 4 extremities scripture. Starlight poured into his body. Quickly reaching saturation, Lin Tian began to circulate the 4 extremities scripture. In an instant, the starlight within him seemed to transform into sharp blades, frantically cutting through his flesh, as if to reforge his very being. Lin Tian felt intense pain, sweat instantly beaded on his forehead. He wanted to roar, but he forcibly suppressed the urge. Lin Shi was beside him, and he didn't want to wake the sleeping girl. In the night sky, starlight poured down, sinking into Lin Tian's body. At this moment, Lin Tian circulated the 4 extremities scripture, enduring immense pain, gritting his teeth as large beads of sweat rolled down his cheeks. Gradually, the sounds of wind and thunder echoed within Lin Tian's body, and the accompanying pain became even more intense. That night, with his back against the thick trunk of a tree, Lin Tian endured excruciating pain, circulating the 4 extremities scripture again and again. Several times, he nearly fainted from the agony but forced himself to persevere, repeatedly pushing past his limits. Soon, the stars in the heavens hid themselves, and a glimmer of light appeared on the horizon. As dawn approached, the mountain air held a hint of dampness. Feeling completely refreshed and invigorated, his entire body filled with strength. This is the cultivation of a warrior. It's so incredible, Lin Tian murmured. After a whole night of cultivation, he had now reached the triple refinement of body stage. The body tempering realm is divided into 9 levels. The first 3 levels refine the flesh and blood, the middle 3 levels refine the bones and sinews, and the last 3 levels refine the internal organs. Once a martial artist reaches the 9th level of body tempering, they can draw in more of the heaven and earth's spiritual energy, stimulating the acupoints throughout their body, connecting the meridians to form a divine meridian within, thus reaching the next realm, known as the divine meridian realm. The divine meridian realm is also divided into 9 levels. After a martial artist cultivates 9 divine meridians, they gather the power of these 9 meridians to open up a sea of consciousness in their head, allowing them to perceive the heavens and earth, and analyze all things. Their strength is terrifying. This realm is called the Sea of Consciousness realm. Martial artists at this level possess extraordinary combat prowess, commanding the respect even of the imperial family. Beyond that lies the incredibly powerful sky-soaring realm. Martial artists at this level can freely manipulate the heaven and earth spiritual energy and even fly through the air, their power boundless. Before a sky-soaring realm expert, imperial power is a mere joke. Such a strong individual could easily annihilate an empire if they so wished. Body tempering, divine meridian, sea of consciousness, sky soaring. The world of martial artists is truly fascinating, Lin Tian mused. Then, he closed his eyes, allowing his body to slowly adapt to the power of the third level of body tempering. Chapter 1005. The Martial Mansion Assessment begins. The sky had fully brightened. Standing on the mountain, one could clearly see the Lin family's old residence in Fengjian City, already reduced to ashes. Lin Shi had woken up and was softly sobbing, looking towards the house, tears streaming down her face. Little, don't cry, your brother is here. Lin Shi wiped away her tears, revealing a sweet smile. With big brother here. Little Shi isn't afraid of anything. Lin Tian felt a pang in his nose. How could he not see that the little girl's smile was strained? He knew that Lin Shi simply didn't want him to worry. An 8-year-old girl already so considerate. Little Shi be good, he said. Big brother swears, what they owe us, big brother will make them repay tenfold, he said. The sky would. Lin Tian didn't return to Fengjian City, but stayed temporarily in Qingshan Mountain. Over the next few days, he cultivated the four extremity scripture incessantly, occasionally browsing the strange patterns flooding his mind. He compiled another set of mysterious movements, named the two instrument steps. Swish! Swish! Within Qingshan Mountain, Lin Tian moved swiftly. The surrounding forest was dense, the gaps minimal, making even walking difficult. Yet Lin Tian's speed was incredibly fast, his steps light and agile, always quickly traversing each opening. After a while, Lin Tian stopped. This two-instrument step is truly extraordinary, he mused. When used, it feels like him riding the clouds and mist. Lin Tian, he wiped the sweat from his brow, rested for a moment and then resumed his cultivation. Wild fruits in the mountains provided sustenance, and time flew by. 5 days passed in a blink. On this day, Lin Tian awoke from his cultivation and looked towards Fengjian City. Fengjian City housed a martial arts academy called Zhuyang Martial Academy. Every year on this day, Zhuyang Martial Academy opened its doors to recruit new disciples, and Lin Tian planned to apply. Although he possessed a top-tier body refinement technique, cultivation required more than just a cultivation method. It demanded vast resources, pills, herbs, martial arts techniques, and special training grounds. Among other things, these resources were difficult for him to obtain on his own, but Zhuyang Martial Academy could provide them. He needed to become stronger, to progress rapidly on his cultivation path, and to do so, he had to enter Zhuyang Martial Academy. If he gained admission and achieved good results within the academy, he would receive a continuous stream of rewards, pills, powerful martial arts techniques, incredible treasures, things he desperately needed. Littles, let's return to the city, he said to Lin Shi bonded, then whispered, but brother, won't it be dangerous? Lin Tian knew what Lin Shi was worried about, and he affectionately ruffled the little girl's head. Don't worry, little, he said, smiling, no matter what happened, your brother will protect you. The early spring sun shone on the bustling square before the Zhuyang Martial Academy. It was the day of the academy's annual recruitment, and the number of applicants was overwhelming. At the edge of the square stood Lin Tian and Lin Shi. He hadn't taken her back to their old family home, it had been burned to ashes, and he didn't want her to see it. Rumor had it that this year's applicants included some exceptionally strong individuals. One had already reached the peak of the 4th stage of body refinement, and he was incredibly young, not yet 16. No way, that's insane, it's true. And apparently, there are quite a few like him. Then, don't we stand no chance? The Zhuyang Martial Academy recruited new disciples every year, but the number of places was limited, only 150 at most. With so many strong contenders, the chances of others getting in were significantly reduced, a fact that naturally caused anxiety. Zhuyang Martial Academy recruits disciples annually, but the number of openings is limited, with a maximum of only 150. If there are too many strong contenders, the chances of others entering the academy diminish, a fact that naturally causes concern. Lin Tian was surprised, a flicker of alarm in his heart. Under 16, and already at the peak of the 4th stage of body tempering, truly monstrous. With the 4 extremities scripture and the 2 instruments step, him at the 3rd stage of body tempering, entering the martial academy should be a problem, Lin Tian mused. As he was thinking, he suddenly felt several gazes fall upon him from afar. He turned, his expression immediately turning cold. More than 10 jang away, Mo Sen's servant appeared, grinning viciously as he approached. Little bastard, I knew you'd come to apply for the 9 Sons Martial Academy. Worth my while waiting here! 6 others followed behind Luer, 5 burly men and a middle-aged man. The 5 hulking men all looked like fiends, while the middle-aged man stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his expression cold and indifferent. Chapter 7 60 Street Execution of a Dog Servant. Lin Tian's face turned cold. He stared at the approaching Luer, a chilling gleam flashing in his eyes. He was pondering how to find that dog. Brother, Lin Shi was terrified, hiding behind Lin. Lin Tian turned, knelt down, and gently patted Lin Shi's head. Little Shi, don't be afraid, brother's here. He told Lin Shi to stay put, then turned to face Lu Er and the others. The events of several days prior, when Lu Er and Matzi had harmed Lin Shi, were still fresh in his mind. He hadn't forgotten. He was Lin Shi's elder brother now, her only family in this strange world, her protector. She was his sister. He would not forgive those who harmed his sister.
But Luo would pay the price.
Many around them noticed the commotion and turned to look. It's him, that Lin family boy, Xiaoyun's fiancé. A few days ago, the Lin family ancestral home was burned down by Mozen's servant. To think this boy is still alive, he's lucky to be alive. So what? It's not dangerous yet. Mozen has always been interested in Xiaoyun, and there's no room in his eyes for that Lin family boy. If the Lin family had remained strong, it would have been fine. But now alas, this time that fellow is truly doomed. Mozen isn't the key is his elder brother. Mo Ji has the truly terrifying one. It's said that man has reached the Divine Pulse realm and serves in the Imperial Expeditionary Army. Has incredibly formidable, with such a terrifying older brother. How can Lin Tian compete with Mozen? He'll be easily crushed. Don't forget, Mozen also has a great uncle who is reportedly an elder of the Nine Sons Martial Academy. He was once the richest merchant in Fengjian City, yet has fallen to this. How tragic. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Almost everyone in the square was a young person applying to the Nine Sons Martial Academy. Many had grown up in Fengjian City and were naturally aware of Lin Tian's situation. They looked at Lin Tian and shook their heads, believing he was in for a terrible ordeal. Lu Er approached, a sinister smile playing on his lips. Break his limbs and bring him before Master Mo. Lu Er commanded the 5 burly men, then looked at Lin Tian and laughed wickedly. Oh, and don't worry about your sister. This young master will take good care of her. He, attack! Lu Er barked the order, grinning cruelly. Advanced on Lin Tian, their knuckles cracking. Lin Tian's face was cold and impassive. Before the 5 men could close in, he moved, darting forward in a single stride to place himself before them, his right fist clenched. He struck without hesitation. Bang! The leading man's nose was shattered by Lin Tian's punch, and he cried out in agony, blood gushing from his broken bridge. The other 4 were shocked and retaliated with their own fists, but Lin Tian in his current state was far beyond the capabilities of a few ordinary thugs. His strength, honed to the level of body refinement stage 3, was no common commodity. In the blink of an eye, the 4 men were sent flying, landing on the ground with cries of pain. Is that Lin Tian? Wasn't he rumored to be sickly and weak? What in the? Many onlookers gasped, their faces filled with disbelief. Lu Er's face paled. These 5 men were all stronger than Marzi. Last time, he and Marzi had suffered a heavy defeat at the hands of Lin Tian. That's why he brought these 5 burly henchmen this time, only to have them so easily defeated. You dare fight back?
You've got some nerve. Just wait and see how I deal with you.
Lu Er glared at Lin Tian, then turned with a fawning smile to the middle-aged man beside him. Master Lu, please make your move, but don't kill him, just cripple him. I still need him alive to report back to young master. The middle-aged man's name was Lu He. A body refinement stage 1 cultivator. He had only agreed to this on account of Mo Sen's request. Hearing Lu Er's words, Lu He nodded and stepped forward. Cripple yourself. I don't want to get my hands dirty. Lu He stared, devoid of emotion. Just you. Lin Tian's expression was cold and indifferent. Lu He's eyes instantly narrowed. Insolent fool. With those words, Lu He threw a punch at Lin Tian. A fierce, domineering gust of wind accompanied the blow. Lin Tian coldly snorted, neither dodging nor weaving, meeting the punch with one of his own. Bang! Ah! Lu He screamed. The impact shattered the bones in his fingers. He was sent flying backwards, tumbling through the air before crashing to the ground. Unable to rise, Lu's pupils widened, his face contorting in shock. Impossible! Lu screamed. Lu He, a level 1 body refinement cultivate, had been blasted away by Lin Tian's single punch. Terror seized him, and he turned. Fortunately, his speed was no match for Lin Tian's. Had only run 3 zhang before Lin Tian caught up, delivering another punch that sent him sprawling. Young Master Lin, no!
I was wrong, please! Young master, spare me!
Lu Er begged for mercy. Spare you? Is that even possible? Lin Tian sneered. He recalled the events at the ancestral home that day, the sight of Lin Shi trembling with fear, and a cruel glint flashed in his eye. He lifted his right leg, a whirlwind beneath his foot, and viciously kicked Lu Er in the groin. Lu Er let out a pig-like scream, blood flowing freely from his crotch. The pain rendered him unconscious. The onlookers gasped in unison. That's completely ruined, a murmur rose from the crowd. Someone else shivered, instinctively protecting their groin.
That kick was truly vicious!
Chapter 7 Trash. Pretty boy. Lin Tian desperately wanted to kill Lu Er. But today was the crucial day for the Jiang Martial Academy's recruitment. If he killed Lu Er here, he would very likely lose his chance to enter the academy. So, he suppressed his killing intent. The surrounding crowd was speechless, completely stunned. Such a ruthless move, a murmur went through the crowd. Many people wore strange expressions. These were young people from Fengjian City, relatively familiar with Lin Tian. In their impressions, Lin Tian had always been gentle. But now, the Lin Tian before their eyes seemed to be a completely different person. This stark contrast surprised them. Get out of the way! A commotion arose from a short distance away. The crowd parted, revealing a man and a woman. The man, clad in purple with a long sword at his waist, possessed striking handsomeness. The woman, with her fair skin and cascading long hair, exuded a captivating allure, a rare beauty indeed. A colder sneer etched itself onto Lin Tian's face upon seeing the pair. The man and woman were Mo Sen and Xiaoyun. Xiaoyun glanced at Lin Tian, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. Though it quickly vanished, her expression returned to its usual aloofness, a cool and haughty demeanor, like a swan. Mo Sen surveyed Lu Er and the others, his gaze finally settling on Lin Tian, cold and sharp. I didn't expect you to be so tenacious. You've certainly grown stronger since last we met. The Mo family was a prominent clan in Fengjian City. Mo Sen had been hopelessly infatuated with Xuanhuan, and therefore harbored intense resentment towards Lin Tian. Even though the Lin family was no longer what it once was, and Xuanhuan was now with him, Mo Sen remained uncomfortable as long as Lin Tian still lived. Heaven clearly disapproves of your scavenging ways, so it spared my life and gifted me some rather useful presents. Just the thing to send you straight to hell. Lin Tian let out a wicked chuckle. Mo Sen frowned. You call me a garbage picker? Of course. Lin Tian shrugged, glancing at Xuanhuan. I've dumped this woman. You want my trash? What else would you be but a garbage picker? Mo Sen's face instantly darkened. A woman discarded by another man. Yet he takes her for a man. Such words were undoubtedly hurtful. What did you call Yun? Shrieked. She had been pampered since childhood, treated like a princess. Never had anyone dared to insult her like this. Lin Tian glanced at her. Didn't hear me. Fine. You'll say it again.
You shameless slut, I'm done with you. From now on, I officially divorce you.
Go live with that pretty boy. You cheap woman. I wish you both a swift trip to hell. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Among the youth who had grown up in Fengjian City, a wave of astonishment swept through them. Was this really Lin Tian? That Lin Tian? Capable of such sharp words? Xuanhuan was humiliated and furious. Mo Sen felt his cheeks burn. You're courting death. Mo Sen drew his long sword and slashed at Lin Tian. Just then, a resounding bell tolled. Lin Tian looked towards the front of the square. The bell signified the true beginning of the Zhiyong Martial Academy's assessment. The bell happened to ring at this moment. You're lucky. Mo Sen glared venomously at Lin Tian. Lin Tian sneered. Once the academy assessment officially begins, all noise and private fighting are forbidden in this place. You should be grateful for that bell, otherwise you'd be far worse off than those dog slaves, sir. Mo Sen's face turned cold. What? Can't understand human speech? Just like that bitch Xuanhuan. Truly a match made in heaven. Lin Tian jeered. He ignored Mo Sen, walking towards the front with the crowd, leaving Mo Sen and Xuanhuan staring at him with anger on their faces. Chapter 08 9 Star Talent. The Nine Suns Martial Academy's assessment is divided into 3 parts: talent and combat. On this day, the first round of assessment was to test talent. For a martial artist, talent is paramount. It determines their future achievements. Simply put, talent refers to a martial artist's affinity for the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. If a martial artist's affinity for spiritual energy is insufficient, they cannot effectively absorb spiritual energy for cultivation, and their future achievements will naturally not be high. Conversely, if a martial artist has a high affinity for the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, they can effectively absorb spiritual energy for cultivation. This means that not only will their cultivation speed be extremely fast, but their future martial arts achievements will also be exceptionally high. It is precisely because of this that the talent test is an indispensable part of the Nine Suns Martial Academy's annual assessment. A high platform was set up in front of the Nine Suns Martial Academy. At this moment, an elder mounted the platform and said, "The rules are known to all, but I must reiterate them. Those at the body tempering realm, double refined, and under 17 years of age are eligible for the assessment. Those who do not meet this condition should quickly leave and not interfere with the Academy's assessment. Under 17, body tempering realm, double refinement. It's quite strict." However, he wasn't worried. He was 16 years old, fully eligible for the assessment. The Nine Suns Martial Academy's aptitude test had 50 stations. After the examination began, the candidates quickly formed 50 lines. At the head of each line stood a stone stele used for testing martial aptitude. These steles were engraved with 9 5-pointed stars from bottom to top. The first round of assessment will now begin the aptitude test. Place your right hand on the stele and circulate your true essence. The number of stars that illuminate on the stele will be your aptitude score. 1 star signifies 1 star aptitude. 2 stars signify 2 star aptitude. Those with 3 star aptitude will pass.
Begin the examination,
the elder announced. As soon as the elder finished speaking, a candidate in one of the lines stepped forward, carefully placing their hand on the stele and circulating their true essence. In an instant the stele glowed, and 2 stars lit up from the bottom. 2 star aptitude. Fail. The examiner in charge of that line stated indifferently. The candidate's face fell and they left the crowd, dejected. Meanwhile, candidates in other lines also began their assessments. 2 star aptitude. Fail. 1 star aptitude. Fail. 2 star talent. Unqualified. 3 star talent. Qualified. 1 star talent. Unqualified. The examiner's voice echoed repeatedly across the plaza. Soon, half a quarter of an hour passed. Lin Tian was somewhat surprised. In this short period, nearly 3,000 people from 50 teams had participated in the assessment, yet fewer than 100 had actually qualified. Such a high elimination rate, Lin Tian gasped. In truth, he didn't know that while the Northern Yan Kingdom boasted a large population, fewer than 1/10 were actually suitable for martial cultivation. Furthermore, the Nine Suns Martial Academy's requirements for its disciples' talents were significantly higher than the average standard for suitability in martial cultivation. Therefore, the high elimination rate was perfectly normal. 2 star talent. 3 star talent. Unqualified. The examiner's voice continued. Just then, a shout arose from a nearby line. Lin Tian turned his head to see a man in purple robes standing at the front of that line. Mo Sen. and 5 stars shone brightly on its surface.
5-star talent!
My god, who is that? Mo Sen of Fengjian City, Moji's younger brother. Don't you know, Moji? The Moji who serves in the Imperial Expeditionary Army. That's the ones. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Many gasped, not only at Mo Sen's 5-star talent but also because of his older brother, Moji, terrifyingly powerful figure. The examiner looked at Mo Sen and smiled. Truly worthy of Northern Yan Kingdom, a 2-star talent is suitable for cultivation, a 3-star talent is considered top grade, a 4-star talent is excellent, and a 5-star talent is a generity indeed. Mosen, possessing a 5-star martial arts talent, truly stunned many present. Go and rest, prepare well for the second round of assessment. The examiner smiled, Mosen nodded and walked proudly to the side. The assessment continued. After Mosen came Xuanhuan fell short, barely reaching a 3-star talent. Just barely passing at this moment, it was Lin Tian's turn to be tested. Mosen, not yet far away, saw Lin Tian walk to the stele and immediately sneered, mocking, Lin family's last wild boy, you were always sickly and weak. With your pathetic state, you dare to come for the test, just obediently go back. Do you really think that beating a few servants qualifies you for martial cultivation? Don't make a fool of yourself. Lin Tian glanced at Mosen, too lazy to pay him any attention. He didn't care about this first test at all. For the past few days, he had been absorbing starlight every night to cultivate the 4-pole scripture. From the information flooding his mind, he learned that starlight was far more powerful than spiritual energy. If he could even draw upon starlight, what did spiritual energy matter? Seeing Lin Tian ignore him, Mosen's face grew even colder. Humph, martial arts talent is innate, you're incapable. Mo Sen looked at Lin Tian with arrogant disdain. Even if, hypothetically, you possessed the aptitude for martial cultivation, could you possibly achieve 5-star talent? I possess 5-star talent.
I'm a genius!
Someone you'll spend your entire life looking up to? Beside him Xuanhuan, arm in arm with Mo Sen, looked down on Lin Tian with contempt. Lin Tian, with your frail body, you're far inferior to even me, let alone Mo Sen. You're at most a 2-star talent. Give up now while you still can. Don't humiliate yourself. Nearby, many examinees look towards them, regardless of whether he passes. 5-star talent is absolutely impossible. Nonsense. Isn't that all? Many murmured amongst themselves. Mo Sen put his arm around Xuanhuan's waist, laughing sinisterly. Yuna, you forgot something you wanted to say to this Lin fellow. Right, almost forgot. Xuanhuan nodded, looking down on Lin Tian like a proud princess. Lin Tian, I know you're not reconciled. That's why you deliberately confront Mo Sen and me earlier, trying to save face, but no matter how unwilling or uncomfortable you are, I still have to say this. Listen closely. You and I are not on the same level from the start. You were never good enough for me. Only someone like Mo Sen, a talented powerhouse, is worthy of me. I will only marry Mo Sen! Lin Tian remained calm, as if he hadn't heard a word they said. He raised his right hand and placed it on the stele. The stele trembled slightly, and in an instant 4-star patterns lit up. 4-star talent. Everyone around was moved, their faces showing shock. Lin Tian looked at Xuanhuan, his face full of disdain. 2 years ago, I remember certain people always stuck to me like glue, calling me Brother Tian every other word. So obedient, so cute. Look at you now, like a clown, thinking that I was once called Brother Tian by someone like you. It's truly sickening. Xuanhuan's face instantly turned ugly. Mo Sen snorted coldly. But it's only 4 stars, it's far from enough. Not comparable to me. Lin Tian turned his head, looked at Mo Sen, and suddenly let out a wicked smile. The stele he had his right hand on trembled again, and 6-star patterns lit up. 6-star talent. Everyone's pupils constricted at that moment. Even the examiners from the 9 Sons Martial Academy were startled, their faces registering shock. Since the founding of the 9 Sons Martial Academy, there had only ever been one disciple with a 6-star talent. Lin Tian looked at Mo Sen and said, 5-star talent is amazing, a genius, someone I'll have to look up to my whole life. His words were calm, yet laced with biting sarcasm. Mo Sen's face turned ashen. Before Lin Tian's test, he had repeatedly boasted of his genius, claiming Lin Tian was far inferior and someone he would always have to look up to now. With Lin Tian's martial talent revealed, it was like a resounding slap across his face. A 6-star talent. The testing stele must be broken, he said grimly. Hearing this, many candidates looked doubtful. After all, a 6-star talent was simply too astonishing. The testing stele is broken. Lin Tian gazed at Mo Sen. A man unwilling to admit defeat, he kept his right hand on the stele, his gaze hardening as his inner true Q surged. The stele trembled, and the 7th star mark ignited. Impossible, gasps echoed. 7-star talent, what kind of concept is this? Many felt themselves going numb. However, it didn't end there. In the next instant, on the stele the 8th star mark lit up. 8. The crowd was stunned, many staring dumbfoundedly ahead, as if they were dreaming. At that moment, a cold shout rang out, echoing throughout the arena. 9th star ignite. Lin Tian's eyes shone brightly, his true essence surging within him. A faint silver glow emanated from his right hand, pressed against the stele, and the stele shook even more violently. Finally, the 9th 1009, the aptitude assessment ends.
9 stars shown, 9-star aptitude.
On the plaza in front of the Martial Academy, everyone was stunned. Are we dreaming? A candidate murmured. At that moment, all eyes fell upon Ling Man, possessed a 9-star martial aptitude. After a long silence, the examiner's voice rang out.
Full of surprise. Excellent, excellent.
Wonderful, a 9-star aptitude. What did that even mean? Never before in the history of Jiang Martial Academy had a disciple displayed such heaven-defying talent. Even across the entire northern Yan kingdom, a martial artist with such aptitude was as rare as a phoenix feather or a dragon's horn. Lin Tian turned his head to look at Mo Sen. How about that, genius? He emphasized the word genius with biting sarcasm, making his mockery unmistakable. Mo Sen's face darkened, as if he'd just swallowed a mouthful of excrement. Xuanhuan was completely dumbfounded. Lin Tian actually possessed a 9-star talent, a 9-star martial arts aptitude. The irony of her earlier pronouncements that he was inferior and unworthy of her burned on her cheeks. Lin Tian casually glanced at the pair before walking away. His gaze fixated on Lin Tian with hatred, shock, disappointment, resentment. A torrent of negative emotions flooded his heart, twisting his face into a grimace. Among the numerous examinees, a wave of confusion rippled through the crowd, their eyes following Lin Tian's movements. Only after several breaths did someone finally regain their senses. That Lin Tian actually, a true demon has been born. This is unbelievable. 9-star talent. If he grows without incident, he will absolutely become a major figure in Beiyan, someone whose very footsteps could shake the nation. Many murmured to themselves. Not only the candidates, but even the elder presiding over the first round of assessment was incredibly excited. For Jiang Martial Academy to recruit such a prodigy, this is undoubtedly a momentous event. The old man's somewhat cloudy eyes suddenly shone brighter. I must tell the elders immediately. The man was somewhat agitated. He looked at the candidates who had stopped their assessment, forcefully suppressing his excitement, and coughed twice at the other examiners. Continue the assessment. An examiner understood and shouted loudly. The talent assessment continued, 50 teams, lasting a full 2 hours before concluding. In those 2 hours, nearly 20,000 martial artists participated in the assessment, but in the end, only over 500 qualified. Most of these 500 possessed 3-star talent. 4-star talent was rare, with only Mo Sen possessing it. As for 5-star talent and above, only Lin Tian achieved this. Congratulations to those who have passed the first round. Please take a short rest. The second round will begin in 15 minutes. Designated examiners will guide you to the next testing location shortly. The elder who presided over the first round of examinations announced loudly. Immediately the elder rushed away, disappearing into the martial academy like a gust of wind. Chapter Sarah's and Rutao's a heart like granite. 15 minutes passed quickly. Lin Tian entrusted Lin to a familiar elderly person in the city before joining the other candidates and proceeding to the second testing location under the guidance of the examiners. The second round of examinations, testing mental fortitude. The path of martial arts is fraught with hardship. While talent is crucial, mental fortitude is equally important. Those with exceptional talent but lacking the resolve to persevere may achieve far less than those with less innate ability. Power, wealth, beauty. For martial artists, these things can be fatal. Those lacking strong will may easily lose themselves, losing their drive to progress. Therefore, talent is merely a prerequisite. Without a strong martial heart, even the greatest talent is useless. The Jiang Martial Academy's mind testing area was located in a spacious courtyard behind the academy. At the center of the courtyard stood a grand formation, etched by a sea of consciousness realm expert. It was an illusionary array, specifically designed to test the mental fortitude of martial artists. Lin Tian, along with the other candidates, headed towards the academy's rear courtyard. Mo Sen and Xuanhuan were also in the crowd, their faces extremely gloomy, their gazes fixed on Lin Tian's back like venomous snakes. Elder Mo, your back. Ahead, the examiner in charge of the second round of testing stopped. A man of about 47 years old could be seen approaching. His aura was calm and steady. Upon seeing the man, Mo Sen's face lit up, and he moved closer. Uncle approaching the middle-aged man, Mo Sen called out. The middle-aged man nodded at him, casually glancing at the candidates before turning to the examiner ahead. I hear there's a 9-star talent among the martial artists. Who is it? The examiner was about to answer when Mo Sen cut him off. It's him, the wild boy from the Lin family. Mo Sen pointed at Lin Tian, the middle-aged man. Mo Yi, a member of the Mo family of Fengjin City and one of the elders of the Jiang Martial Academy, looked towards Lin Tian. After hearing Mo Sen's words, his gaze cold. After a moment, he withdrew his gaze and looked at the examiner at the front. Take them to the testing points and inform them of the rules beforehand. After speaking, he led the way towards the backyard. During the second round of assessments, the elders of the Jiang Martial Academy would occasionally attend in person. This time, his nephew, Mo Sen, was participating in the academy's assessment, and he possessed 5-star talent, so he naturally had to come and watch. Humph. Mo Sen coldly swept a glance at Lin Tian, then followed Mo Yi towards the backyard. Lin Tian's expression was calm, utterly disdainful of Mo Sen's actions. Following the crowd, he was quickly led by the examiner to the location of the second round of testing. Enter, the examiner said. You will soon be immersed in a vast illusion. The content of the illusion is the second round of testing. This round has 3 stages, with a time limit of 2 hours. Those who exit earlier demonstrate greater mental fortitude. Anyone who fails to exit the illusion within 2 hours will be deemed unqualified and eliminated. The examiner spoke. Following his words, the candidates entered the large formation ahead in succession. Activate the formation. Seeing that all the candidates had entered the formation, the examiner shouted, standing within the large formation. The moment Lin Tian heard the words activate the formation, the scene before him instantly transformed. A blood-red space appeared before him, filled with countless ferocious ghosts clawing and gnashing their teeth. Ox heads and horse faces strode towards him, chains rattled, and axes gleamed menacingly, as if to drag him into an eternal hell. Lin Tian's face remained impassive, completely unconcerned. Having lived 2 lifetimes, was he still afraid of ghosts? He stood motionless. The ghosts and ox heads and horse faces charged forward, passing straight through his body. Level 1. Cleared. Impressive, he thought, calmly. The next instant, the scene shifted. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues. At the edge of the world, a sea of thousands upon thousands of soldiers surged forward, their thunderous charge shaking the very earth. Thousands of ironclad cavalry, each warrior wreathed in the bloody aura of battle, thundered towards him. Lin Tian stood rooted to the spot, his expression unchanging. Days ago, on the green mountain outside Fengjian City, he'd had an incredibly vivid dream. 9 unfamiliar figures battled before his eyes, tearing apart the heavens, shattering the earth, twisting and distorting the very fabric of yin and yang with their conflict. Compared to that dream, this was nothing. Thousands of cavalry charged, their war cries echoing like thunder, their powerful momentum reaching for the heavens. Yet as they neared Lin Tian, the illusion couldn't hold. In an instant, the thousands of cavalrymen crumbled, dissolving into nothingness.
Cleared.
The final level, Lin Tian muttered to himself. In the 3rd trial, he found himself in a luxurious palace. Pink gauze rippled in the air, heavy with fragrance. A dozen slender maidens, clad in sheer, translucent garments, their skin barely concealed, danced slowly approaching him. Instantly, the palace was filled with a sensual atmosphere, a decadent essence permeating every inch of the air. The dozen maidens giggled, their charm captivating, like a bevy of enchanting spirits. Come on! The dozen maidens pressed close to Lin Tian, their jade, like skin brushing against his body as they slowly shed their clothes. In an instant, a dozen exquisitely beautiful bodies lay bare before him. This was primal temptation, enough to ignite the blood of any man. Lin Tian remained motionless, a cold smile playing on his lips, his gaze unwavering. Having lived 2 lives, and after his experiences with Xuanhuan in this world, he had learned a profound lesson in this world. Without money, without power, without strength, beautiful women are merely fleeting illusions. Now, he has nothing, so for him, all this is an illusion. Standing within this palace, his heart was as firm as a rock, unwavering. Now,
Only could become stronger.
on a white jade platform in the courtyard, Moi stood with his hands behind his back, gazing into the great formation. Beside him were 2 others, also elders of the Jiang Martial Academy, one named Mu Qing, the other Shi Dong. In this assessment, there were many with exceptional talents. Let's discuss who among you will be the first to emerge from the illusion in the 2nd round, Mu Qing said. His gaze was fixed on the great formation ahead, yet his eyes were glued to Lin Tian. The elder in charge of the 1st round had already informed elders Mu Qing and others of the talent assessment results. Naturally, Mu Qing held high expectations for a 9-star talent. It's hard to say. Willpower and talent are unrelated. Some warriors possess exceptional talent but incredibly fragile willpower. Others have low talent, even lacking the aptitude for cultivation, yet possess incredibly strong willpower. Shi Dong shook his head. What do you think? Same here. Shi Dong chuckled. However, no matter how talented this year's candidates are, in terms of willpower alone, no one can compare to that child. Mo Ji, that child is the most strong-willed martial artist I've ever met in my life. That's true. That fellow's martial heart is truly terrifying. He was practically born for martial arts. Mu Qing agreed. Mo Ji was Moi's nephew. Hearing their words, Moi couldn't help but smile. Mo Sen, that child, is influenced by his older brother, so his willpower shouldn't be far off. I think Mo Sen has a higher chance of being the first to leave the illusion, Moi said. Shi Dong nodded. That's very possible. Speaking of which, how long did Mo Ji take back then? I think it was a quarter of an hour. Excellent, a quarter of an hour. We've only been here for half that time. We can still rest a little. The 3 of them chatted and laughed. However, the next moment their expressions froze simultaneously. Ahead, within the grand formation, Lin Tian suddenly opened his eyes. What's going on? Could it be? The 3 of them paled simultaneously within the grand formation. Lin Tian calmly glanced at the other examinees, then, under the wide-eyed stare of the examiner, calmly and confidently walked out of the formation. This watching Lin Tian walk away, the examiner in charge of the 2nd round of assessment nearly petrified on the spot. Half a quarter of an hour. He exited the illusion. This episode is complete. Welcome to subscribe. Turn on the small bell forward. Please leave your comments. I will continue to update the content behind.